I like to imagine that in the 2 hours before his death, my brother's colorful, silent friends came to see him and pay their respects. He loved these tropical fish. They swam to greet him when he went into the sea. They were friends, family. He had snorkeled along this coral reef just offshore from his Florida condo for 30 years, but on this particular day, all that experience meant nothing. We know from autopsy reports that he didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. A healthy 52-year-old male, death by accidental drowning, the report read. We'll never know what went wrong. My brother John died all alone. It seemed to us that John had lived with loneliness since his birth. He was born with a string of disabilities that didn't seem connected then, but 50 years later, doctors know a lot more about autism. His language skills were poor and his speech difficult to understand. He was tall and very thin, with an awkward Charlie Chaplin-like gait. Human touch was jarring, not soothing. Some years ago, John inherited my parents' condo, and after my father's death, I helped him with some routine chores. It never occurred to me that grocery shopping together would be a major event in his life. As we were pushing our loaded shopping cart back out to the car, my brother said, "So this must be what it's like to be married, to do things together." I wanted to cry. My loner brother never had a prospective life partner, and I knew he never would. I was desperately sad he had missed so much in life. Friends, a family of his own, children. I wanted him to at least know he had people who cared. John, Margie and I love you very much. It was always hard for him to look people in the eye, so he stared at the groceries and the cart. Yes, and I love you too. Most people think I'm stupid, and that's okay with me. They just don't understand. I ached for him. Few people knew that he was actually brilliant in some areas, particularly military history. He could recite battle names, dates, officers, and strategy for military conflicts from ancient to modern times. He remembered the tiny details of ordinary events, like how many steps it took to get to the car from a restaurant, or the color, feel, and price of the dozens of polo shirts he loved to buy. Now my brother was gone. Without a word, my sister's embrace at the airport unleashed shared memories that brought us both to tears. Our brother's lonely life had ended with a tragedy that only underscored his isolation. No friend to join him snorkeling, not even a bystander to help when he was in trouble. We stopped at an Episcopal church near John's home before we drove to his apartment to begin the task of settling his estate. We decided we wanted to hold a memorial service for John, even if we were the only two in attendance. The kindly priest agreed to put together a simple service for the two of us. My brother held a job with Broward County Water and Wastewater Services as a maintenance worker for nearly 28 years. We sent his supervisor an email about the memorial service. There were no others to notify. A few days later, my sister and I went back to the church for the service. We were stunned when we walked into the church sanctuary. At least 50 people, maybe more, were taking their seats near the front of the chapel. My sister and I were confused and curious at the same time. Who were these people? Where did our lonely brother meet them? The priest said, "I had a short service planned for John's two sisters, but now it seems with so many people here, it might be more meaningful to hear from them." The people in the pews began to raise their hands. A wondrous, yes, miraculous transformation began to unfold for me and my sister. Could our view of our brother have been wrong? All our lives we had worried about John, pitied him, saw him as lacking a so-called normal life. Now these people had come here out of their great need to share what they knew about John. The stories poured out from their hearts. All of them worked with my brother, every one of them. from fellow maintenance workers to construction workers, secretaries, and supervisors. A big, muscular man with several days of stubble on his handsome face offered a story. Your brother loved the big machines, especially my dozer. I just got the biggest kick out of his reaction when he got assigned to help me, like a little kid, so excited. My boss told me John was a great assistant, but warned me to be careful with instructions. Keep it plain and simple. Well, it was getting dark, and I had given him a list of instructions to turn off a piece of equipment, twist this knob, check that flange, flip this switch. I took out my flashlight and handed it to him. When you're done shutting it down, John, hit me with the light. It took me a few seconds, but from John's horrified look, I knew, holy crap, no, don't hit me with the light. Just shine the light on me. The room full of people who had been dabbing at their eyes now dissolved into laughter. Person after person stood and shared a lovely story about my brother's kindness, his honesty, his surprising brilliance. We had a pool going with the New York Times crossword puzzles, another man said. Nobody knew it, guess they will now, but I cheated on occasion. If I got stuck on a word, I would go find John and give him the puzzle clue. Took him maybe seconds to give me the right answer. Wouldn't ever enter the pool himself, but we challenged him one time with a stopwatch. He got the whole New York Times puzzle done in under 20 minutes. He was amazing. I stood and addressed the group, emotion choking my voice. My sister and I spent a lifetime worrying about our brother, feeling so sad he had no family close by and no friends. Today I realize you were his family. You were the ones who loved him, supported him, and made him feel he belonged. Thank you. We were so wrong. My brother's life had been far from lonely. Now, as I reflect on that last day out beyond the surf, I imagine he felt comforted by the embrace of the seawater and the silence of the creatures he had come to love. I knew about that family, but I didn't know about the other one, the human friends who looked beyond his differentness to let John's good heart touch their own. A month after his death, John's supervisor sent us a photograph from the county maintenance yard. It was a picture of a new street sign. Maintenance workers installed it on a road they pass every day. It reads, John Pearson Way. The world may not remember my brother, but his family always will.